but I am cognizant of the moment where it becomes less about what I think and more of what I feel. And it's like further back in the brain. And I think music and dance work together in terms of cross hemisphere. So I do think we feel connected when our hemispheres start to like really communicate. And I'm not a neuroscientist. It's more of my like personal experience where I feel like, oh, I feel really connected. Like, why do I feel so smart when I leave ballet class? I feel like I can conquer the world. And it's because some piece of me has been like kind of woven back together.
Hey love, this is Sarah Marie, and you are listening to Time in the Studio, where we offer support for multi-passionate, earth-loving creatives who want to dig in and flourish. I'm a multimedia artist, clinical herbalist, and doula based in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm so excited for episode 72. This is with Kelly Buwalda. We get into dance, Thai massage, performance, why do babies dance, and how we innately crave rhythm. We talk about singing to dogs, dancing for water with children, and moving on air on rooftops. What am I talking about? Listen to find out. This episode is full of ideas to get you moving and shaking and climbing mountains in your mind and in the world. For example, Kelly was inspired by another quietly strong woman to climb Kilimanjaro for her 40th birthday. And she shares some of the struggles and support from that journey. A little bit more about my guest today. Kelly Buwalda is an artist, educator, and adventurer. She is propelled by creativity and fueled by connection. Originally from Indiana, she's been creating and collaborating in New York City for nearly 20 years. After acquiring her Bachelor of Arts degree in dance and psychology at Hope College, she trained with the National Dance Institute, a far-reaching dance education program founded by Jacques. She became a teaching artist with NDI in 2005 and has since taught thousands of elementary students and directed At the River's Edge. It was named an event of the year. And as a dancer, she has performed for numerous project-based companies, worked for choreographers such as Mei-Yin Ng, Erin Dudley, and Julio Rivera. In 2010, she graduated from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and became a certified health coach. Years later, she studied intuitive Thai therapy with Sarah Seeley and currently offers wellness sessions for groups and individuals. Kelly was awarded a 3-month artist-in-residency at Chez Bushwick in 2014, and her choreography was selected for the Detroit Dance City Festival in 2016 and 2017. She is about to premiere a solo dance film created during COVID with filmmaker Fred Hatt on February 3rd. That's today. Among these and other pursuits, she loves her new role as a dog mama. So let's hop to it. But before we do, I have a major favor to ask. If you like this show, please share it with a friend. Big thanks to you for your support, for listening, and for doing what you do. Let's jump in. Cha-cha-cha. So I am so honored and delighted to have on the podcast today Kelly Buwalda. She is an amazing dancer who I got to meet years ago. I was going to this art gallery and one person connected us to another, and I was just like, oh, something about your energy just feels so good. And so we've continued to stay in touch, and wonderful to know you, Kelly. Thanks so much for making time to be here today.
Thank you, Sarah. I think what brings us together is art and healing, creative expression, setting up personal challenges for ourselves, and wanting to really serve others, wanting to serve community, wanting to connect. So I've often, there's been points in my life where I felt very fragmented, and I think that was more like in my 20s. In my 30s, I started to weave it together, and now in my 40s, I feel a little more whole. But it's like what connects dance, teaching, health coaching, hiking, all these things I do, whether they're, for income or not, but like what connects all of that. And I think what connects it for me is the belief in transformation and not always like from bad to good, but the belief in change and in like personal evolution and communal evolution, the belief in creativity being a necessary outlet to being human, fully human, and the power of connection as a social being. And I think you can be anywhere on the scale of like introvert to extrovert to ambivert in the middle, but we all have to find our connection to ourselves and others, and to again be fully human and healthy. So I think connection and transformation guide all of the different things that I do in one way or another.
Oh, so beautiful. I'm curious, I don't think I've ever asked you about this, but I'm wondering what you were like as a child. Were you always dancing and interested in connecting with other people? Or is there anything you want to share about maybe a memory from childhood?
Yeah, I love looking back on childhood. It's kind of for guidance because I feel like I can be really hard on myself, which I think is common. And I don't think that makes me unique. But I think it's been like a lifelong sort of critical eye. And part of that is because I was a younger sister. So as I looked up to my older sister, I always measured my enoughness. Like she can do a sit spin ice skating and I'm not there yet, you know? So that for better and worse, that made me hard on myself, but it also made me aspirational. So I think that's maybe the darker side of my child. I was a very happy-go-lucky kid, but I think the darker side was that I like inside was always yearning to be more. But outside, I was very expressive. I was very social. And I was like kind of girly. I always had like a doll or a purse or something, but I was also outdoorsy. And I always had like, you see pictures of me and I'll like have a skirt or purse or my hair in like some sort of special braid, and I'll have band-aids or scabs on my knees. So I feel like in that way, I haven't changed. Like I like being outdoors and, you know, being a little rough and tumble. And also I notice beauty around me. And I think that sort of like noticing and bringing out beauty in others too is something that I've liked to do. But yeah, I didn't dance a lot as a kid until, well, I mean, I was a kid till I was like 8, but I was in gymnastics and ice skating. And that like whetted my appetite for performance, for the ritual of costume and, you know, production. But when I think about dance and where my first journey began, it wasn't really in the studio. It was, and I'm like looking over my shoulder. I know that some of this might be online and people can see me and some people will be just listening, but behind me is a piano. And my mom played the piano. She also taught me the piano. So really my first taste of dancing would be my mom would play piano and I would just start moving. I think it's a very natural impulse. You just move to music. Like babies all bounce to the beat, believe it or not, because some people think they don't have rhythm, but it's a psychological, like there's been all these studies. Babies know the beat, they know the pulse. And the first thing they hear is the heartbeat. So I think we do have so much of that in common, whether we're dancers, like with a capital D or not, we all have an impulse to move to music.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And it kind of ties into on Instagram, I put up a little story and somebody was curious about understanding more about what happens in the brain when we're dancing. And so I feel like it kind of connects to that childhood. Like there's something innate that happens even with babies of like sensing rhythm. Like and I can see like in plant spirit journeying, like oftentimes there's a drum to help you kind of get into this trance state. And I don't know, I'm just thinking about like dancing. I feel like it transports us to this other place of consciousness. I'm curious if there's anything you want to touch on there in your own experience or in teaching dance too. I feel like that must be very transformative for other people.
I think I'll actually start with 2 of my heroes and lessons that they've imbued on me before I can even go into like who I am as a teacher, right? We have to honor the past. So Jacques D'Amboise, the founder of New York City, not the founder of New York City Ballet, excuse me, the founder of National Dance Institute, which is the main organization I teach with, he performed for New York City Ballet. And so he had the 2 careers of, I mean, he's all encompassing, but his 2 main accolades and what he got Kennedy Center honors for and everything were his career as a dancer and his career as, you know, founding a dance institute. Sorry, I've got like a lot of bone marrow happening over here with my dog, so it's a little crunchy in the background. But Jacques had, you know, the career as a performer and the career as a teacher and as the founder of an organization that had a wide and still has a wide reach across New York City and in the world. And Jacques always talks about the first thing you're hearing is a baby being the heartbeat. And so that always like made an impression on me. Like, of course we respond to the drums. It's so primal. He always talks about the Big Bang and the big move too. That's a whole other story. He's a great storyteller, but he would talk about like what happened first, the Big Bang. He says, no, movement happened and then the sound. Movement had to happen for the sound. So I think about movement, sounds. I mean, it's all connected. Then I want to give a little moment to say Christine Wright is one of my heroes. She danced for Lara Lubavitch, and she's my ballet teacher, and I still take class with her right now virtually. And she often starts class with meditation. And it might seem, maybe it doesn't seem weird now because people are like really hip to meditation, mindfulness. It doesn't seem like so esoteric anymore. But as someone who took lots of dance classes, like you just start at the bar or you just start in center, you start with music, you start with movement. You don't like take a moment to tap into your brain. And one thing she definitely taught me was our nervous systems are a huge part of how we dance and how we move. So she would take us from our analytical brains back to our senses. And I feel that's very important now to me as a mover, as a teacher, that we're not just always, and sometimes I can really feel it. Like, you know how if you're in a different country, you might know a little bit of the language or you might know none at all, but you're like grasping and there's like part of your brain that will like actually hurt, or you're if you know a little Spanish and you're in France, you're all of a sudden you're speaking Spanish. Like it activates this language center in your brain.
Yeah.
I feel like that with dance is like we can be so analytical and we're like visual and our energy's all forward, and we have to get back to the lower part of the brain where we're sensing and we're feeling and we feel connected. We're not just over intellectualizing. So I think that happens when are moving for a consistent period of time, or yeah, like you mentioned, like trance or something. I'm not like really an expert in that, but I am cognizant of the moment where it becomes less about what I think and more of what I feel. And it's like further back in the brain. And I think music and dance work together in terms of cross hemisphere. So I do think we feel connected when our hemispheres start to like really communicate. And I'm not a neuroscientist. It's more of my like personal experience where I feel like, oh, I feel really connected. Like, why do I feel so smart when I leave ballet class? I feel like I can conquer the world. And it's because some piece of me has been like kind of woven back together.
Oh, that is so cool and so beautiful. And I never thought about that kind of journey in the mind, like when you're meditating to try to get to that kind of maybe reptilian place. Like I think the back of the skull, that's like more ancient and reptilian. Like I feel like there's a place of finding safety there. And I could see when you feel safe, you're able to take more creative risks. You know, like if you're feeling threatened, it's hard to be creative, you know? So that's interesting.
I mean, hitting the nail on the head about like the auditioning process too. Like the most grounded I could ever feel, I still felt not fully myself in auditions and in that like process, which for me is kind of wrapped up at this point. Not really doing that anymore. But I remember like so many times, like when you're feeling that sort of like frontal, and I'm not like an expert in Ayurveda, but the principles of Ayurveda are so clear that I know that I'm more Vata dominant. I know I'm more of this wintry, flighty, my energy's up. So to like be grounded or be heavy, you know, can really support me. And yeah, I feel like getting into a safe place with your body. And also for Christine, the way she'd always describe it is like having sensitivity. And I think when we're in like fight and flight, we have less sensitivity, right? Like I think about when I get stressed and I'm like very clumsy and I'm dropping stuff. That's always a sign to me when I like drop things or I spill a glass of water. I'm like, okay, I'm stressed, tired. I'm like not as sensitive. So I think Christine has taught me to be a more sensitive dancer. But when I found her, started taking her class, maybe 2003 or something, So yeah, it has been a long time. And her pianist, Benjamin Bradham, is also amazing. And they've been teaching together for over 20 years. And one of the advantages of COVID is she's now moved to Canada and that I can still take her class. So that, we have to count some of our wins too. The long, but I'll make it short story is that the first place I lived was with a choreographer. When I moved to New York, I found a place within like a month. I crashed with some friends and then I moved in with this choreographer and I lived with her and worked for her. And she could see the energy in my body and she's like, you need to ground and you should go see, like I ended up dancing for her. I think she actually saw my potential as a performer when she saw me perform. She felt like a magnetism, but she's like, you need to kind of pull it in. You need to channel this energy. And so she knew about Kristen. She's like, go take her class. So that was that.
It's funny. I had reading for someone yesterday and they do a lot of work with performance as well. And they have an audition today and they were just looking for advice. And I was like, I feel like to do a meditation around your star energy would be really helpful. And so I just told her to like visualize as though you're covered in stardust and getting that energy to kind of contract and come closer to you, and then to expand it and imagine like how far it can expand out and allow it to keep coming in and condensing and then expanding out. It's funny because I feel like that resonates in some way, or that connection of bringing your energy in and focusing it, because I'm a little bit Vata and like ping pongy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like excited about everything. And it's like, okay, just learn to like channel and focus that energy and like bring it in and work on like fewer things. I'm curious if focus has ever been a challenge for you.
Many things. One is that as you were explaining that, my modern dance nerd reference would be Martha Graham and her contraction and expansion. And, she's so much drama, but there's so much wisdom as well. And I do think like the literal kinesthetic embodiment of that is actually in tons of dance classes. Bartinia fundamentals, things where you pull into the fetal position, you expand out to the X, like you do this thing where you're really connecting. It's also brain and body, like head, tail, spirals. There's all these like ways that we can kind of connect that. Oh my gosh, you can see behind me that my dog is doing pirouettes. He's communicating to us the way he likes to feel grounded through movement. I think physicality almost always helps me land. So being physically a little tired sometimes makes me more mentally focused. That is a way that my focus increases. That's why sometimes I have days where I feel like, well, I shouldn't take a dance break or a yoga break in the middle of the day. It's sort of like I should be working, whether I'm done teaching classes, but I need to plan more. But what I found for myself is that when I do that physical thing in the middle of the day, the rest of the day is productive. And I can really focus on emails and administrative work and all of those things when I've had both quiet time in the morning, which I'm getting better at having that for myself, and a physical outlet. Sometimes focusing is hard for me. I feel like a jack of all trades, sort of, and that I have my hands in different things. And when I feel too distracted, I get frustrated because I do feel like I have a sense of devotion. Even if I feel mentally distracted, I have like a spiritual sense that I want to be like not careful, but like considerate with my work, no matter what it is. So when I feel too pulled in too many directions, which I like tip my hat off to parents, I can imagine that I will really have to ground myself should I ever become a mother, that I'll have to tell myself that I'm okay. I'm okay at being okay rather than being completely devoted. I find that with my dog too. Like in the beginning I was feeling like I couldn't meet all his needs, meet all my needs, meet all my work needs and all the home needs. Sort of like I'd have a great day where I took care of him and I didn't exercise, or I had a great day where I was really good at work, but we took short dog walks. So I think that sometimes is a challenge for me, just feel like letting go a little bit.
Do you think balance exists? Because I feel like there's kind of this idea of like, just balance things. And I don't know, is there balance? I don't know.
I love that question. When I answer all your questions in like physical metaphors, but
you're a dancer, so that makes sense. I love that.
When I learned how to do a handstand or a headstand, I had been in this yoga class. I'd been doing it, never been able to do it. Finally, I was in a different, sometimes it's just a different teacher, the way they say something, or maybe your body's just ready. But I remember the first time I learned a headstand, it was this big aha moment because I was balanced, I was upside down, I could hold it, but there was all this movement going on. So, I think of like trees, and the reason they can be so rooted is because the top of them has flexibility, which is a lesson to us right now. And I think for me, and this year so far, January, I had some goals, is you can be balanced if you're clear with your priorities. Because then you can say, okay, so, maybe this month my physical goals haven't been met, but I was focusing on my home and look how beautiful I made it. If that's my goal, then I'm balanced. Or I really want to focus on my family and I want to live on a smaller budget because I don't want to work so much that I can't meet my family's needs right now. I think a lot of people are coping with like, what are their essential priorities? So like, yes and no, I don't think balance exists in the way that we're sort of marketed to, especially as women. Like have it all, look good, is heteronormative, like have the man, have the ring, have the house, do that, like be a Beyonce. No, I don't think that exists. And I think it's sort of spiritually void of like the meaning of life, of what you look like all the time.
Yeah.
But I think balance, it can exist for us personally if we check in with like what our true priorities are. I think alignment is another way of saying balance, right?
Oh, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And I think really getting clear about what is your true north or what is your priority right now. And for me, I feel like right now is helpful for me to think of too, because I can get stuck in the idea of committing to one goal or one priority. And it's like, it's just right now. It's kind of like the Reiki principles, like just for right now, I will not worry, or, it's like,
yeah, Reiki. I got to know someone this year who's in recovery. It's kind of amazing. It's 13 years. The recovery world, the healing world, there's so much in common. It's so much day by day, one day at a time. I didn't know was the AA slogan. Now I do, but it's really true. And I think those sort of one day at a time, like what happened today, and we can learn from, oh, today, this didn't go so well. Like we can learn from it, but I think holding the space as much as we can, which is hard for me, but I'm really trying to embrace the non-judgmental observation. Oh, yeah, I actually would have had time to work on that book today had I not watched this TV show. Or I really prioritized reading this book and I finished it today. Like, what are small wins? What are, I'm also thinking month to month this year. I don't know how long it will last, but I have a lot of projects I want to do, and I'm just thinking, okay, so what's like the first step in January? And somehow this month to month perspective is helping me, because when I start to go, oh, well, I didn't do this too, I'm like, but that's really, if I get to that, great, but that's really what I want my February focus to be. So I don't know, that's not for everyone, but for me right now, that's what's helping.
Love that. I think that's super helpful. I'm kind of in a similar vein. I just finished reading The 12-Week Year, and
oh, right.
And I don't love everything about that book, but I do like the idea of getting really clear about what if you only focus on the next 3 months and you have one goal for those 3 months, and then you think of like different things you can do to try to make that one thing happen. And it just has been helping me to kind of focus my energy. Like, okay, just what's one goal? Like if I only do one thing in the next 3 months, what would feel good? And so it's helpful for me for kind of realigning and refocusing. I'm curious, looking at, this has been, 2020 was insane. And especially in terms of dance, performance, doing physical, Thai massage, working with people physically, and teaching in schools. That's just like and you have this giant new beautiful dog. I'm curious just to hear about what that has been like, some struggles, and how you're getting through all of that.
Yeah, I feel really grateful. And I think having an active gratitude practice is worth a lot. sort of the very simple, very cheesy. Well, it's not really cheesy. The depth of it is not cheesy at all. It's very humbling. It's very like reverence. It's like prayer to tell yourself what you're grateful for, to tell the world or to say thank you, verbally to someone or, quietly in your own brain or heart. But I have a lot to be grateful for. And I think that's been really grounding. That's really also cleared away a lot of noise. I think everyone's faced letting go of attachments in some way. And I'm really, I have a beautiful home I'm really grateful for. Letting go of my other place I lived for a lot of reasons, but most of them financial, was a big change. And sort of I had to mourn. It wasn't just the home and the physical structure, sort of the familiarity in a time where you kind of want something to feel familiar. It was also the physical structure that I had a dance studio / wellness space where I could do Thai massage and things. So I sort of like don't have that extra room anymore. But there was something like liberating too and reinvention. So yeah, how I've been getting through, I'm really blessed to still have my work. You have to adapt. So I'm teaching online, but I do love working with children and still teaching them in some capacity. So I'm on Zoom a lot and, I have to be very grateful and expressive to both National Dance Institute and New York City Ballet for keeping their teaching artists hired as much as possible. I mean, I'm also a veteran. I've been there a long time, so I can't, say that they can, on the whole, keep all of their artists working all the time, but I'm personally grateful. And then, creative outlets for me are just not bonus, they're essential. And I think I've come back to writing a lot more this year, which I love to write, and sometimes it's on the back burner, so I journal quite often. I've been attending, there's so many resources, and I guess I would say I feel spoiled in New York City, but now these are all online, so they're for everyone. But I've taken some free writing courses with Gotham. They're called write-ins. You just
cool.
show up, there's prompts, you share. You can read your writing, you cannot, you can do whatever. So writing has been great for me. I feel like everybody, no matter if they think they're a dancer or not, can just turn on music that they love and take a dance break. I often just play really great music when I'm cleaning up my house. I end up dancing and cleaning at the same time.
Oh, I love that. That seems like such a great ritual. Do you have a favorite song or a go-to?
Not at all. It's just whatever. And I actually am the worst at having a really cool Spotify list. So I just kind of bounce around. But the other day I put on I think also if you put on music that's from your adolescence, you're going to have feelings. So that's I put on the Indigo Girls the other day and I was just singing. I think singing, everybody can sing, everybody can dance. Everyone has a song that they love to rock out to in the car, and then yes, having a dog, it provides such a sense of ritual. I have walks every day. I'm outside at least 3 or 4 times a day. And, he brings a lot of humor into my house. And so I got him 2 weeks before COVID hit March 1st, or at least in New York. So that whole journey has been a huge, when I think of 2020, I'm lucky in that it's having a birth of a child or something. It's not just all these things went away. It's a gain. But I'm really lucky to have him around.
I think just the social aspect of COVID and not having hugs, not seeing people as much in person, it's just really challenging. I'm wondering, thinking of your work with Thai massage and that touch, touching people, being touched, I'm wondering if there's any suggestions you have for people who don't have that, aren't able to hug anyone. I think there's just such a sense of isolation still. If you have any ideas for dealing with isolation for people.
Yeah, I have to say it's hard. I really miss, I have given a few Thai massages in the past year, but not very many. And it definitely feels therapeutic to me to give touch as well as receive touch, as well as provide healing, or at least provide an experience that could have the byproduct of healing. I don't know. I think it's a conversation. I do feel sort of lucky as somebody who's single that I have my dog to pet and, we have our body language. I think, yes, you can hug yourself. Yes, you can do self-massage. There's things like you can do tactile for yourself that I think are good. I think even taking a warm bath, like, brings circulation and warmth. It gives us that, like, fetal, moment. You can layer yourself up and be cozy. You can do all those things. At the end of the day, I think it's important for people to really connect when they can safely. I do think I sort of, I love my friends, and so many have moved away, and we try to stay in touch. But when I moved apartments, I found this desire to really connect and reinvent my community locally. And I think it's really important. It may not always be a hug, but I see my neighbors, I see people that own businesses in the area that I have conversations with. I think, like, maybe it's not exactly touch, but it's connection to really embrace what's near you. Because it's important to be seen. It's important to make eye contact. Like, it's important to smile at each other, even if we have masks on. So, even just seeing my neighbors and kind of having new friends in the area has been really, like, life-saving. So I'm really passionate about now investing in my local businesses and communities as much as like, your neighbor could be your best friend, or they can just be someone who, like, listen, I was getting a COVID test and I was in line for hours. And I texted my neighbors and they came and they relieved my dog, so
Oh, nice.
It's not just like to invest to get back, but it's, it's relationship. But yeah, and I think you have to talk to people. I mean, I have a therapist. I mean, you need to make sure if you're not doing well and you're feeling isolated, I just say it's really important to reach out. And what's hard is sometimes when you're feeling that way, it's hard to reach out. But there are so many resources. There's so much mental health support. There's I haven't done it, but there's talk therapy, text therapy. There's, a short text to a friend to just say, like, I really need to talk to someone. I mean, I think we have to tap into our vulnerability. I really think tapping into your vulnerability makes you stronger. And when you can, get a hug. They're really important.
Absolutely. I think that's so beautiful. Oh, cycling back to something, some people may not know what Thai massage is, because I think it's very unique practice.
Yeah. Well, like attracts like. That's the homeopathic way, right? So it's definitely a moment too. Speaking of vulnerability and transparency, I have not been to Thailand. So I want to be, transparent in that. I did not go to Thailand. I I'm a white woman practicing Thai massage. Like, you don't want to be careful about honoring the roots of it and also being like, who am I in this and what my offering? I learned from Sarah Seeley, who spent a significant amount of time in Thailand. And she's also a wonderful person to see, maybe another person to have on the podcast. Also, was a dancer, choreographer, outdoor lover. She makes her own line of products like teas and, muscle balms and stuff. I actually had the joy of, like, working with her and just, like, observing and helping, like, make muscle balms just to see how she made it. So she was my teacher. I took 2 courses, like Thai level 1 and Thai massage 2. And really she also has a background in somatic education. And I think that the way that she approaches Thai massage and what I gleaned from her, and then I sort of add, my background as a dancer, is intuition. So she calls it intuitive Thai therapy. And for people that are wondering, like, what does that mean? To me, what it means is there's this ancient practice that, yes, began in Thailand. And it's aligned with yoga and some of the stretches. But first of all, you're clothed. You wear, like, loose clothing. And it's a lot of body movement. It's kind of like partner dancing, except that one person, me or Sarah or whoever's giving the massage, the facilitator, is really carrying the weight and sort of moving you through it. You, as the recipient, are somewhat passive. And I know it's funny, I can tell people's personalities when I work with them, because often they'll, like, lift their leg or try to help me. And I'm like, no, you have to, like, let yourself relax. But I can tell that they're, like, super considerate people. So they're like, no, let me help you do the massage. But you're moving, there's positions on the floor, on the side, on your back. I have a little mat, but it's kind of like, people say it's like yoga on the body. And then from Sarah, I really tapped into, listening to my intuition as I work with someone as a facilitator. And I don't know if I should use the word feminine. I have, like, issues with it, like genderizing something. But I feel like what I've heard from people that have seen me people that some love Thai massage and people that hated it, because I did a lot of practice massages when I first started, was that it felt more supportive and sort of less aggressive. And I sort of associate that with feminism, with sort of like the relationship matters more than the like, oh, put your elbow here and press. It's like listening to the body. And as a dancer, what I love about like doing it sort of like contact improv, even though there's a clear structure, I've learned certain ways to move my arms or hold people's legs, and there's a structure. But how we move together and what I sense their body needs is intuitive and improvisational, which sort of brings me to my dance practice. And so I think I'm able to really be there in the moment and really have this like nonverbal conversation.
Oh, that's so cool. I can see how it feels almost like a dance with another person, but I get to be like the really lazy dancer where like you just move me around or like I'm like a puppet or something. Has that been something you've continued to explore?
Yeah, I remember I kind of gifted myself the retreat and the workshop. So Maha Rose is no longer. They were like,
I
then
loved Maha Rose. Oh.
I think, they're going to exist in some capacity. I'm sort of convinced that a lot of businesses or places or brands that seem to sort of be shutting down right now, it's like cocoon time. It's like a butterfly. I love this. I love this image, like butterflies before they're butterflies. The worm like doesn't just grow wings. This little caterpillar like completely, I think my friend Hallie told me this, by the way. Hallie is like one of my friends, amazing friend, but also just amazing performer, was like in the cast of Rent and Forza Bruta, all like has a dream career. And I remember her telling me she loves science, and we both love like hiking and doing outdoor stuff together. And I remember Hallie telling me like it actually, because she listens to a lot of podcasts, so it becomes a soup. So this caterpillar like completely like dissolves, and then it like rearranges itself, and then it like has the intelligence to like pop out and bloom and fly. So I think a lot of businesses and places, and we even maybe need to give ourselves this permission, like we don't need to be like gracefully growing wings. Like we can turn into soup. We can kind of like piece ourselves together again. And we can all take a moment to, I think it's really important. I would like emphasize to everyone, especially doing that on my like wellness page, like do get outside. Like your body, your brain, your lungs, everyone, like all of that needs you to be in the sun and breathing air. Your mental stress will be reduced and all of that. But like emotionally, if you need to cocoon right now, if you need to kind of just stay close, like I think it's really healthy. Anyway, Maha Rose North was like a retreat center. So I got to learn Thai massage in the woods and practicing in one of those like little biodomes every day. And I think it made it really potent because I wasn't in the city running to a class. I was absorbed in that process. And then I did like a Thai level 2 and sort of like refresher course. And yeah, I've stayed in touch with Sarah, and I sometimes like pop in other workshops she gives. So I kind of keep it coming. But yeah, I think wellness is like a forever like life course for me. I want to know more about herbs. I want to know more about taking care of the earth, and like it cycles around. Last year I read Braidings of Sweetgrass by Robin Kimmerer, and it's just, I could read that book every day. I mean, there's so much wisdom.
I'm curious, you went on a journey for a birthday.
Yeah, for my 40th birthday, I really feel like this decade is giving me permission to sort of claim what I want. And it's something I dreamed of for about 20 years. The first time I climbed a mountain, I was in Colorado, just to bring it back to where you are.
Ooh, cool. And it was?
It was in the Holy Cross Wilderness.
Okay.
It was one of the 14s, just because I know I was like, yeah, I can check out my first like 14er off my list.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really awesome thing, actually. I have to give credit to my first boyfriend who taught me to rock climb. And the first time I rock climbed, I was in a gym in Michigan. And the second time I was barefoot hanging over some cliffs above like old railroad track in Colorado. So like,
my God,
he sort of like brought me into his adventure world.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's amazing, like impressions people can leave on you. It's both inspiring and also a little nerve wracking as a teacher and as someone who I feel like my example could be positive or negative. Like I have a responsibility as a teacher and as someone who could make impressions on young people. So I was in Colorado on this trip. I was in college, and we had two guides. So we were backpacking in like a small group. We had a female guide and a male guide, and I honestly don't even remember her name. I remember her face. I wish I could give her some credit. But I was like in this crew of a lot of boys, a lot of young men that were like Everest, and I remember reading Jon Krakauer, Into Thin Air, and I just kind of thought to myself like, I don't know, and they would go skiing in fancy places, and I kind of thought to myself like, I don't really have like the bravado or the ego to like dream of Everest. Like that doesn't feel authentic. But this woman told me about Kilimanjaro, and I just sort of like thought, wow, like she did that. And I was seeing a lot of like men around me at the time, like climbing, backpacking, you know, and this woman was like kind of quietly strong, kind of like quietly tough. And I just remember thinking that was really cool. And then like,
yeah,
you know, years later, I found out how I could actually do that. And there's a group that I did some trips with here in New York called Discover Outdoors. And they also have like a for-profit and a non-for-profit. And there were a lot of reasons why I chose to do it with them, and also with a friend who was turning 40. So definitely a rite of passage. It was an amazing experience. And it really was a moment of knowing that when you ever accomplish anything like pretty daring or worthwhile, you do it because you have the support of other people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was thinking about that today for some reason on my dog walk. I was thinking like every celebrity, every person that we idolize because we think they're individually amazing has this huge tribe. Like you have so many people supporting you. And anyway, I climbed Kilimanjaro. I walked up this amazing mountain because these Tanzanian men were helping us have dinner, helping us have a safe and clean place to use the restroom. They were singing to us. They were dancing with us. They were creating an experience of, you got this, we got you. There's like an incredible, it was just extremely humbling. I admit I spent basically a few days in to the end, like crying because I was so moved by them. I was also on my period. So as a woman, all my senses were heightened, like,
oh God,
intense. But I'm so glad. And I guess if I could say anything to my younger self, there's a couple things. One is if you have something that's on your heart to make happen, like it's just so, please listen to that. You know, I'm really grateful that I planned that trip, especially now, like knowing I can't travel for a while. And I also felt this moment, it's a strange moment, but one of the most magical things was you're above the cloud line for a while. So you look down and you see the clouds. And at first your brain tricks you into saying like, that's the ocean. Like you can feel this like sort of disorientation where you're trying to identify what that is because you're used to looking up at the clouds and you're looking down. And I had this moment where I literally felt my inner child in my heart like smile and be like, you're the woman I wanted to be.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's
that's me putting it into words. I can't even really put it into words. I felt something wash over me. I felt like an endorphin rush of like, you're here. And I was this little girl growing up in like small town Indiana, but I had some dreams that some of them were verbalized and some of them weren't. And it wasn't that I wanted to climb a mountain when I was a kid, but I wanted to live an adventurous life. And I found myself in this moment being like, wow, you did something that's so true. Yeah. And that feels really good. That's really like a confidence booster when you feel, again, aligned. Like not balanced, definitely not balanced, climbing up a mountain without oxygen, bleeding, like crying. No, I wasn't, but I was like living something that felt, I was like meeting my deepest need, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so beautiful. I love it. Oh, there was something I wanted to ask about. You did a performance. It was a couple years ago. I was going to New York and I was hoping I was going to get to see you and see this performance. But anytime I'm there, it's just like goes too fast. But I know you were doing a performance and it was I know part of it was with children. And honoring the river and honoring water. And I keep having dreams about water. It keeps coming up in podcast conversations. Like water just keeps like wanting to be named. And so I'm curious if you want to talk at all about that performance that I never got to see.
Oh, first of all, thank you. Because sometimes we just like keep moving on. And we forget that, like, I don't know, every now and then you redo your resume and you're like, oh, I've done some shit. Like, we tend to be like, oh, but I haven't done this yet. And we forget the things we have done and like how meaningful they were. So with National Dance Institute, I was given the directorship. It's sort of like a year-long position. And what that means is I directed a show of over 200 children performing to live music. And every year in our organization, we have a theme. So the children in school learn the theme. And then from the in-school program, we select students for a scholarship. They come to our center with no charge, for free, and they dance. And then they have something called the event of the year. So the event of the year is this performance, which, we're having to reinterpret right now. But I was lucky enough to direct before COVID. It was 2018. And I named the show At the River's Edge. And it was honoring what are rivers, what do they mean to us? And it's like river is life, water is life, honoring different cultures as best I could. I think I'm still learning again about cultural honoring versus appropriation. I'm always learning. So I think, I tried to honor the Nile. I tried to honor Indigenous reverence for water and the very clear understanding that water is life, is survival. Damage we've done, ways we've cleaned ourselves up. There was a piece about the Cuyahoga in Ohio that water was so dirty that it caught on fire. Oil slicks were on it. They used those images to help create the EPA and found the EPA because like an image of a river burning is such a clear message of like, this has gone way too far. There was a piece about Flint. I mean, there's definitely some pieces that were political, but I hope that they weren't really received as political. They were about our relationship as humans to water. And it was also such a learning experience. I mean, I had like the leadership that sometimes I shy away from. I'm usually like in support of other people's visions. So it was definitely a moment where I had to go like, what is my vision? And then how do I logistically manage this? Yeah. And I think I was really like ripe for that learning. But I can send you a copy of it. Yeah, I can send it to you. It was really amazing to collaborate with the people I work with. And, I didn't choreograph everything. I choreographed a few pieces and then other people choreographed. And we have an amazing costume designer. Again, like thinking about the tribe and all the people that support you, lighting designer, costume designer. I got the idea about the Cuyahoga had in a conversation with a parent. It's like, I'm still looking for ideas of what to choreograph about and what should the show be about. So having conversations with people and then pulling ideas from those too.
I'm curious, you mentioned like through that experience that you were able to sink into your leadership and connection with the community and kind of sharing that experience. Is there anything you want to touch on there to share?
But it's strange. Like in some ways I'm really cool being in the spotlight. In some ways I feel like a forever little sister. I think, what I really enjoy is I really enjoy collaboration. And as I've gotten older, I want more ownership of that. Like I'm okay now. I think like doing the River show really helped me be like, you do have a point of view. Like I'm always like, oh, I don't know my point of view. And like, but I'm like, I do have a point of view. Like it's good. I can embrace that. But what kind of brings me out is when I'm not alone and creating a vision. Like recently I made 2 short dance films and I'm going to be sharing those, I think after this airs, but February 3rd. I think. Yeah. We're going to share them live, but I'm sure they'll be online. But I feel like it was sort of my concept, but being able to have, my collaborator support it and bring ideas to it makes me feel more energized. So I think and I think also speaking earlier about vulnerability, I mean, I think there were moments where I was like struggling, but I think there's moments that, I sort of wanted someone to throw me a life raft. And I think in some ways, like when you're in a growing place, like you need to learn to swim. You need to learn to deal with your struggle, which brings me back to the butterfly, because there was a scientist who like helped them when they were struggling to get out of their cocoon. And then that scientist, but what they've discovered, the idea behind it is that when they helped the butterfly emerge sooner, the butterfly didn't have the strength to fly and it died. Wow. I do think that struggle, if like you're used to being a leader and you want to step back and support a project, or you're not used to being is vulnerable, putting your own idea out there. Like, I think it's good to be in that place of growth and that place of like, I'm not sure. And that's the only way we like truly learn. I think I learned to trust
Absolutely.
myself more, but it's like an ongoing process.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious in terms of like teaching via Zoom, there's so many parents at home dealing with children with like energy and even adults with energy that they need to do something with. Like I think it's tough to have this stagnation and not be able to like move as much. Do you have any suggestions for people to do something to like move that energy and keep things flowing?
Yeah, I mean, getting outside for a walk, I know it's easy for me to say that because I have a dog and I live in New York, so we kind of walk everywhere. I know where I grew up, like walking down the street is not normal. Like you just get in your car, like you do not. But I think like getting outside and for people that are like, "Oh, but my kids can't get away from screens." Like, but as soon as you start walking or you go to a park, I mean, trust me, like the swing set will be more interesting, but you got to start. Part of it's just getting physically moving. I think there's a lot of great classes. I mean, I'm even taking a workout in called Blogilates, and it's like, 20
Oh,
minutes of
fun.
toning, and it's just kind of nice for someone to tell you what to do. I feel very resourced, to use that word earlier. I feel very resourced in that I have so many friends that are Pilates teachers and yoga. I mean, I know which classes I can go to and that they're going to be amazing. But I think, definitely like there are so many resources and spending a little time maybe finding something that works for you and your kids. YouTube is ridiculous amount of resource and free classes. And I think people would be surprised just playing music and doing freeze dance. This is a universally fun thing for children.
I
And
love
I
that
think,
idea.
oh my gosh, just play music and press
Hmm.
pause and see if your family freezes and like, have the siblings rival
Uh-huh.
each other. I
Hmm.
have to say, teaching on Zoom has been one of my favorite moments. It's happened a few times, so it's not one moment, but is when siblings join in our class. So like someone's taking the class and then someone's in the room and we say just I love the philosophy of our organization. It's like come one, come all. Like if a
Hmm.
teacher used to walk through the auditorium, it's like join us. Like a principal comes in, dance with us. So we're embracing that on Zoom too. And it's just like, even though this is your brother's dance class, like take it. Like the more the
Yeah.
merrier.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. That's so cool.
yeah, just turn on some music and move around, really, and get
Hmm.
outside.
Yeah, so good. I want to honor your time. I want to check in and see if there's anything else coming to the surface that you want to be sure to share, anything you would have told your younger self, and also how people can connect with you.
Sure. To give yourself time to do what really feels good, like in your bones.
Mhm.
So essential. More essential than eating broccoli or, you know, doing your taxes. Like you'll do
Mhm.
those things if you're feeling happy and productive. So, yeah, I have zero tattoos, but I've thought of giving one that says, "Have you danced today?" So it's like
Mhm.
if I'm a grump or just feeling overwhelmed, like there's a chance I didn't move that day. There's a chance I didn't like spend that creative time.
Mhm.
I think everyone's creative and everyone needs to figure out that like stop saying I'm not a dancer, I'm not a singer, I'm not a writer, I'm not expressive. Like one of my ways of proving that is that we all have these incredible dreams. I mean, I'm big into dreams. I have a lot of like fun
Mhm.
flying dreams and things. But every night you go to sleep and your imagination goes wild. And then practically, I would love to connect with people. I offer individual health coaching as well as group workshops. I love creating workshops.
Oh,
So I have one coming up on the 10th, which is actually donation by donation to support our programming at National Dance Institute. I'm going to talk a lot about goals in a way that's not like new year, like be a different person. I
mhm.
don't like that rhetoric. I like sort
Yeah.
of like who are you now and who do you want to be and how do we like support that? Like
Mhm.
so that's February 10th, and I'm sure that we can embed a link or something to this. But if they miss that, just follow me at Buwalda Wellness. That's my wellness site, or at Eyes of Buwalda. Both are my last name. If you want to connect with me more personally, and I'm share my dance work on that as well. But yeah, individual and group coaching, Thai massage when it's safe and when people feel safe. And yeah, I'm always open to collaborations too, you know, dance, film, outdoors, music, and those sorts of relationships I'm looking to like reinforce and build
Beautiful.
on.
Oh my gosh, so exciting. That's so cool.
Yeah. And I hope to be offering, I'm working with a friend of mine. I think this is a testament to like get out of your comfort zone creatively. I sort of wrote a song. Well, I say sort of. I wrote one, but wrote one with Wes Webb, who's a music educator and like, you know, amazing. I wouldn't have been able to do that without him, but I had an inkling of an idea and then we fleshed it out together. And so I hope to be sharing that soon with people too. It's pretty much a lullaby to my dog, but I think it will be just interpreted as an expression of unconditional love. And I think having a dog has made me feel like in touch with my mama, my inner mama. So it's sort of like a goodnight song. So hopefully that can bring a little love in the world. And I think that's what I'm getting at, saying everyone's creative. Like, you don't have to win a Grammy. You can just write a song to your dog. Like,
yes, absolutely. Well, Kelly, it's been so wonderful to connect with you. Thank you so much for making this time today.
So thank you.
Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye, honey.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you feel drawn, please connect with Kelly Buwalda on Instagram at Eyes of Buwalda, EYESOFBUWALDA, and or Buwalda Wellness, and let her know you appreciate her perspective. She also has a performance. If you're listening to this in real time today, be sure to check out her Instagram for more details. And she has another upcoming event on the 10th in 1 week. So yeah, be sure to connect with her. You can connect with me on Instagram at Time in the Studio Podcast. And a big thanks to Karina Rep for her intro and outro music. Intro is Release Me. Outro is Need You, Don't Need You. And please remember, this show is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and not to be used to diagnose, treat, cure, etc. any diseases or issues. And there was one last thing I wanted to tell you. Oh, yes. If you really like this interview and you want more, there's another half an hour of us chatting on Patreon. So you can check that out. In that, we talk about, oh gosh, so many things. What is there? There's a meditation behind the scenes. We talk about the art of kintsugi and repairing things, the art of Hilma af Klint, making art more accessible. We talk about why Enneagram numbers and why my Enneagram affects how I do podcasting. And also talk about the idea of criticism and feedback. So there's lots of little bits and pieces that you might enjoy in the longer version. And that is available for as little as $3 a month. And you get access to all the recordings and all the handouts and all the things that I create there. So yeah, you might dig it. If you do, thank you so much. And hope you have a great week. And may our efforts benefit all beings. Take care. Toodaloo.